Hello, everyone. Morning. Haven't seen you guys in a week or so. I'm hoping that there's actually spring showing up this weekend. That's my hope. First, President Trump recently established March 29th as our National Vietnam War Veterans Day. Today is the first anniversary of that special day. To commemorate our Vietnam War heroes, Deputy Secretary of Defense Patrick Shanahan will host a ceremony this afternoon at the Vietnam Memorial. On behalf of a grateful nation, we want to thank all who served during the Vietnam War, as well as their families, for their service and for their sacrifices. On the Pentagon's Cloud Initiative, we are modernizing the department and reforming the way we do business. This is a performance-based, single award contract. It is a 2-year contract with 4 2-year options. It is an open competition and first of many open competitions. Our goal is to retire legacy systems, streamline our processes, and implement a performance-based culture. We want competition, and now we have it. On the budget, last week, President Trump signed the spending bill appropriating $700 billion for defense. This law, along with the 2-year budget agreement, provides the budget certainty we need to implement the National Defense Strategy. We are heartened by the bipartisan support we received from Congress. We will use the money to rebuild and restore our military to ensure we remain the most lethal force in the world. On Monday, Secretary Mattis issued a memorandum to the department reinforcing that every decision we make must focus on lethality and affordability. We are humbled and grateful to the American people for entrusting their hard-earned tax dollars to us. We owe it to them to spend their money wisely. On transgender, I know you have a lot of questions about this topic, so I want to be upfront about what I can address today. We will continue to comply with 4 court orders assessing transgender applicants for military service and retaining current transgender service members. Because there is ongoing litigation, and to safeguard the integrity of the court process, I am unable to provide any further details at this time. On the situation in northern Syria, military operations continue in Syria as we work by, with, and through our coalition partners to defeat ISIS and ensure conditions are set to prevent its return. While the coalition has significantly degraded ISIS, important work remains to guarantee the lasting defeat of these violent extremists. Our commitment to win must outlast the so-called physical caliphate and the warped ideas that guide the calculated cruelty of ISIS. This is a group that plots and launches terror attacks globally. They have no regard for anything decent or valuable in life. As long as they exist and bring death and destruction around the world, we will continue to degrade, destroy, and ultimately defeat ISIS. We cannot allow our focus to deviate from the most important task of eliminating ISIS from the region. The ISIS terrorist network is more fragile than it was 1 year ago, but it still presents a capable and committed threat. ISIS is taking full advantage of any opportunity to regain momentum. We must not relent on ISIS or permit these terrorists to recover from their battlefield losses. We are working with our NATO ally, Turkey, to reassure them that we understand their security concerns and will appropriately address them as we fight ISIS together. But we must not become distracted and reduce the pressure on ISIS. The nature of our mission has not changed. The coalition remains committed to the lasting defeat of ISIS. We will accomplish this by training, advising, and assisting our partner forces in Iraq and Syria. The Syrian Democratic Forces have repeatedly shown They are the most capable force on the ground to defeat ISIS. We will continue to support the SDF as they continue to fight against ISIS. We will work together to secure and stabilize liberated territory as our diplomats work to resolve the Syrian conflict through the Geneva process. We must quickly resolve our differences in Syria and consolidate our gains to guarantee ISIS does not regroup. We support our diplomats who are working tirelessly to ensure we can finish the ISIS fight. So with that, I will take your questions. Lita.
Dana, two things. One, can you tell us what the topic of the meeting was today with Director Pompeo, Sessions, and Senator Graham? Can you just give us an idea what that was about, and if there were additional people in the meeting, who they were? And then I have a second question.
The meeting today was a routine meeting of cabinet members. The Secretary talked about his three priorities, and that's the lethality of the force, its alliances and partnerships, and the reform that we're bringing. He is focused on those issues. So that was the conversation. Senator Graham is a key member of the Armed Services Committee, and so it's also a part of keeping our members of Congress informed of everything we're doing. But it was a routine conversation.
And secondly, I completely understand your reluctance to talk about the transgender lawsuits. I have a question on the actual memo that the Defense Department posted publicly on its website on Friday night. I think that memo is out there. It's public for everyone to read, but I think there's some confusion about it, and I think the department owes the service members and the public at least some clarity on what the actual document says and what its intent was. Whether or not that has an impact on the lawsuit completely aside, just that actual document itself. Because it was written and signed by the Secretary of Defense, and that appears to be the policy that the White House then endorsed. So my question is, I just want to make sure I have this clear. The policy said that transgender troops who have a history of gender dysphoria are disqualified except under certain circumstances. There were exceptions that could be done. But it also said that transgender troops who require or have undergone transition are disqualified. And there were no similar exceptions. I want to make sure that I understand correctly that under the document you posted, that transgender troops who have actually undergone transition would no longer be allowed to serve, so would be thrown out. Is that an accurate interpretation of what you posted?
I'm limited in my ability to talk about it. One, we have to remember that what was posted was a recommendation. The department remains under 4 court orders. So we continue to assess transgender individuals as well as retain transgender service members. But beyond that, I have to respect the integrity of the litigation. I'd have to refer you to the Department of Justice. They are the lead in this. The documents are there. We made them public as soon as the announcements were made.
But don't you think it's the Pentagon's responsibility to at least explain the document itself? I mean, just to make clear what the document says.
Much of that will be explained through litigation. And as the Department of Justice is the lead, I have to respect the current process. But we remain under those 4 court orders and will continue to comply.
Right, I'm not arguing with that. I'm just saying the document, is that not a Defense Department document, right? That is the Defense Department's policy recommendation.
It is the Secretary's recommendation that was posted.
And
yes.
The White House then endorsed it, saying we accept the Defense Department's recommendation. So that is the Defense Department's policy, right?
We are under a court order.
No, I understand that, but that is the department's recommended policy.
What was posted was the recommendation. We remain, the Department of Defense remains under those 4 court orders. There is current litigation, and until any and all of that is resolved, I can't comment further.
Okay.
I understand, but there is a process that's going on.
Can I follow up on that actually? Because
Sure,
as
Courtney.
reporters, we all got this late Friday night. We got the memo, and we're trying to report accurately on it. And there is some confusion about the status of currently serving transgenders under the transgender individuals under this new policy that Secretary Mattis signed. His name, he wrote it. His name is on it. So, again, like Lita, I understand that this is under litigation, but for our reporting purposes, can you just explain to us? Currently serving individuals who have undergone reassignment surgery or are in the process of it, does this policy find that they are eligible to continue to serve or not?
Again,
It doesn't have anything to do with the court. I really understand, and I understand the integrity of the process, but if this is something that's been presented to the court, why is it that we have to have the court and the Department of Justice be the ones who explain your policy? You understand the disconnect here that...
it's a recommendation. The Department of Justice is leading this. They will explain, because there is a court, this is pending litigation. And as long as it's pending litigation, there's very limited amounts that we can talk about. We have, as the Secretary said earlier this week, we have to respect the integrity of the process. The documents are there. They are free for you to read. We put them up as soon as we could. There were multiple filings that were done. And this is pending litigation. Tom.
Why not explain them?
On the same subject,
Sure.
I think the documents say there's fewer than 1,000 transgenders in the military across the board. Can we get a breakdown of those numbers by service, and how many are in combat arms, how many in support? You must have some sort of a sense of at least which service we're talking about here. Can we get that information? It has nothing to do with a court case or anything. It should be readily available, I think.
I will be happy to talk to OGC about it, but you are dealing with also privacy issues, so...
I'm not asking for names, I'm just asking for what services they're in. And are they in combat arms, are they in support and so forth?
I'll be happy to take it. Absolutely. Lalit.
Thank you. India is planning to buy S-400 air defense system from Russia. Would CATSA legislation kick into it if India goes ahead with its purchase from advanced military defense system from Russia?
Say the second part. What are the implications?
The CATSA legislation, which is countering America's adversaries through Sanctions Act, prevents American allies to buy certain defense equipments from Russia. And if they go ahead with the buy it, the sanctions kick into it. And India being an important partner for U.S. And also for Russia too. India, buys around 60% of its equipments from Russia because of its historic relationship with them. Now India is planning to buy S-400 air defense system from Russia. So my question is, would this legislation kick into it, and U.S. would be imposing sanctions on India?
Well, I can't comment on pending legislation, but what I can say is ultimately those decisions are sovereign decisions, and so those are decisions that India has to make for itself.
Can we stay on India?
Let's hold on one second. Ryan.
Thank you, ma'am. Just on the border wall, there's a lot of reports that President Trump is looking at having the Department of Defense fund the border wall and reappropriating funding from the omnibus potentially. Is there any effort going on inside this building to look at how that might be done, looking at funding and reauthorization or using National Guard forces? Is there any kind of effort going on the border wall? And then I have a small separate question.
What I can tell you is that the Secretary has talked to the President about it, but I don't have any specifics with respect to any more details than they have spoken about it. Go ahead, Ryan. Go ahead.
About the money being used, just to be clear on that, he's talked to him about using Pentagon funds for the wall. Is that what you asked?
They have talked about the proposal, potentially. Remember, securing Americans and securing the nation is of paramount importance to the Secretary. They have talked about it, but I don't have any more details with respect to any specifics.
Could you talk about
Go ahead, Ryan.
You can talk about the purpose of the meeting this afternoon between the Secretary and Ambassador Bolton?
So this will be the first time that they've met. But it's a very routine meeting, just to start to get to know each other. As the Secretary said earlier this week, he looks forward to a very productive partnership.
A follow-up on
Tara,
the
go ahead.
wall. Thank you.
You know, over the last few years, and especially as Secretary Mattis took office, really emphasized the state of readiness of U.S. forces and how much money was needed to rebuild the forces, rebuild squadrons. If this wall costs $25 billion, wouldn't that significantly harm this department's ability to buy the ships, to buy the aircraft that it needs to get back to the strength it needs to be?
I think that's a bridge too far because we don't have those details. And again, it's been an initial conversation, so I don't have any more details. But if I get more details about a way forward, I will certainly share them.
But in those conversations, did Secretary Mattis press the need to keep a focus on lethality, which has been his primary focus this entire time?
The president and the secretary, there's no daylight between them with respect to ensuring that this military stays the most lethal in the world. There's no disagreement with them on that issue. Idris.
Sure, just going back to transgender very quickly. In the memo, the Secretary says the RAND study has significant shortcomings and then refers to the panel of experts that provide the recommendations. Could you tell us who is on the panel of experts?
Again, I don't have that information, and I know it's been a request, and we are working on what we could do. But again, the documents are there. The supporting documents are there. They stand for themselves. I understand there are questions, but again, I have to respect the fact that this is pending litigation.
I mean, is the Secretary proud of the recommendations he's made? Because generally, if you put something out at 9:30 on a Friday, the impression is that it's being put out there because it's being hidden or something. And it was not easy to find the memo on the website either. I mean, is he proud of the recommendations he's made to the President?
The Secretary was asked for his thoughts, and he provided his recommendation. The way that this was done is it was a coordinated effort with the White House as well as the Department of Justice. And because there were multiple filings done in different time zones, it drove the timing of the release. But as soon as it was done, we provided that information so that to ensure that there was transparency, that you could read it and you could see what had, not just the memo, but also the supporting document behind it. So that is his recommendation, and that is what it is. We remain under the 4 court orders, and therefore we're going to continue to comply and assess transgenders individuals as well as retain currently serving transgender service members.
You're not saying that the names of the people on the panel has an impact on the lawsuit, are you?
I'm saying that the documents there have been submitted, and that is what we have submitted. With respect to the names, I would have to defer and talk to Justice as well as OGC. Yes.
Can I follow up on that, please?
Sure, Nancy.
In the memo, as Lita and Courtney pointed out, there's some ambiguity about what exactly it means, and there are some who in the military who might be male who identify female or vice versa who say that because of that ambiguity that they are taking it as a don't ask, don't tell sort of approach, that if they identify one way or the other, that because of the ambiguity in this policy that it is best that they do not say what gender they identify with. Is that an accurate conclusion that one should draw from this memo if you're a currently serving member of the military who may identify in a different sex?
What one can assume is that right now the Department of Defense is retaining transgender service members because we are under 4 court orders. That is what you can assume. Beyond that, this is pending litigation.
Right, but what I'm asking is when in an organization of 2 million personnel, clear personnel policies is critical, and I'm just trying to understand if you're a transgender service member, if you're a male who identifies female or vice versa, going forward until this is settled legally, that you should not reveal what gender you identify with.
That is up to an individual. What I can tell you.
But I'm asking what the personnel policy is for this department.
The personnel policy of this department is that we continue to allow and assess and retain transgender individuals. That is the state in which we are. 4 court orders.
And if I were to come out and identify as a different gender, would that threaten my ability to serve right now in the U.S.
I'm
military?
not going to deal with hypotheticals. Way in the back.
Going back to the transgender, sorry. What I don't understand, why, if it's so important, the litigation issue, why haven't your department waited until litigations are over? There has been any kind of pressure from the White House? Why not wait until everything is clear, until the courts have made a decision, whether it's constitutional or not? And I have a second question on the budget, but please.
Well, because one, there was a memo. The president requested the secretary provide a recommendation, and that was very transparent. And so now we are in this process, and we're going to see it through. We've provided the documents, we've provided the recommendation, and we remain under the court orders.
What's the sense of providing any recommendation if the final decision is going to depend on the courts anyway? I mean, if it's unconstitutional, which could happen, your recommendation would make no sense anyway. Maybe it would have been better to find out which is exactly the problem before telling the White House, how to deal with it.
This is the process. And more on the process, I would have to refer you to the Department of Justice. This is current litigation, and this is where we are. Lucas.
My second question on the budget, which is really the border wall. You were saying that Secretary Mattis is really focused on defending the Americans, but my understanding is that American security in U.S. soil, it has nothing to do with the Department of Defense, or it has more to do with the Department of Homeland Security. So why ask the Department of Defense? Because the idea that people outside this whole business are getting is that Trump, the president, has fight for you to have an increase of your funds, but then so he can use it for what he wants, which is not exactly the military.
I think it's important to understand that the president and the secretary talk about a variety of subjects. This was one of them. And I don't have any more details for you. Tom.
Conversation that you just referred to earlier, and I realize they have a lot of conversations, but when did they talk about this concept that you brought up about the money from the defense budget for the wall? Was it before the president sort of tweeted about it and made publicly his musings on this thought, or was it after the president did that? And I have a follow-up on another topic.
I don't know about the exact timing. Again, the president and the secretary talk frequently, but I can confirm that they have spoken about it, but I don't have any other details about it.
My follow on this transgender thing, I want to get clear on one thing, please. When and if there's court action that involves the Justice Department and DOD, will it be a Justice Department individual who will then explain the DOD memo that we're referring to here and what it means? In other words, if there are questions, does this mean this, as raised by some of my colleagues here, will it be a Justice Department person who's explaining that?
Yes, so it will be justice in the lead. Lucas.
Dave, does the president's pick to be the next VA secretary have to leave the Navy before assuming the job?
So this happened yesterday, and so I don't have any details with respect to that. But when we have some more details, I'll certainly share. But again, it happened yesterday.
Does Secretary Mattis have confidence that Rear Admiral Jackson can do the job successfully?
We have confidence in the secretary, in the president's pick. I don't know how familiar the secretary is with the doctor, but he has, it's the president's pick. And it's for the president to determine who serves in his cabinet.
Was the secretary surprised by the name?
The secretary is not surprised by much. So, no, he was not surprised, and he was fully supportive of having Undersecretary Wilkie serve in the interim.
Ma'am, we have time for a few more questions.
How about Korea? Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Dana. I like you. On the exercise of the withdrawing U.S. forces, Korea, family members, and the Americans in the South Korea to the United States, do you have anything on that? They're going to evacuate the U.S. citizens from Korea. Why?
I don't have any information on that. we stay very vigilant. As the Secretary had said earlier, as these talks go on, we want the people who are involved in those talks to lead them. But we remain cautiously optimistic about developments. Tony.
You started off reading a memo that the Secretary put out the other day about the peerless stewardship of tax dollars. What prompted the memo? Is he concerned that potential overspending may occur on desks and travel and odds and ends that have occurred at HUD and EPA and other places, and he wants to nip that kind of thinking in the bud?
What prompted it is the passage. You know, it got overwhelming bipartisan support, and therefore we're grateful for the increase. I mean, it's $700 billion and it's 716. So we're grateful for the increase, and he knows and he wants to ensure that this department is focused on meeting our performance, making sure the warfighter has what they need. He wants us to have budget discipline. He mentions that. It is a call to action that we're all responsible for this money. This has been entrusted to us, and it's our responsibility to ensure that we maximize every dollar.
Is he going to take any additional steps, like maybe greater oversight of some key weapons programs or service contracts where he will put his imprint on potential contracts that may or may not seem overspending?
Well, I will tell you that the Secretary and the Deputy talk frequently with the service secretaries about how are we going to ensure performance. We are instilling a culture of performance. I think the biggest change we'll see is the fact that you do have now two unders, one with Ellen Lord, with Secretary Lord, dealing with sustainment, and you have Mike Griffith dealing in future in research and engineering. That's a key point, because then we have greater accountability for those capabilities. So now you have two individuals who that is their sole focus. So we are infusing accountability, we are infusing responsibility. So that was the purpose and the reason and what prompted his desire to put out that memo.
One on Mr. Wilkie.
Jeff.
I was just going to ask about Undersecretary Wilkie. His portfolio included the close combat lethality portfolio. Who takes that on now?
So acting Principal Deputy Undersecretary Kurta will be there in his stead. All right.
And is Mr. Wilkie there today at VA? Did he actually start the job as interim?
He will start on Monday.
One on China.
I haven't gotten to this side. Corey.
The Secretary talks a lot about keeping his recommendations to the President private. Was it the Pentagon's decision or the White House's decision to release the memo of his transgender recommendation?
Well, again, as this is in litigation, when it was filed, it became public. So by all means, we want to provide you, and we did as quickly as we could. When it was released, we provided it online.
And then do you have any update at all on the Niger investigation? Has the family's been notified at this point of anything?
I don't have any updates. The Secretary is still reviewing it, and we will let you know. First, the notifications of the families, then to Congress, and then we will let you all know. Thank you all very, very much.